Okay, guess what? Project Moss has been revised. And here are my thoughts on that. Here are my thoughts. Hello, I am Sophie. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to not really a writing vlog, because I didn't vlog this step in the writing process for this project, but I have completely read through Project Moss, the second book in the Project What trilogy. She's right here in these two notebooks. Very cute, very fun. So, let's begin. Biggest thing, the biggest and main thing that I noticed about this story, and I mean I already knew this about the story when I was writing it, was how large Act 2 is and how small Act 1 and Act 3 are. The book is 30 chapters right now. That's gonna change probably at some point and many times, but right now it is 30 chapters for reference, okay? There are 4 chapters in Act 1 and 2 in Act 3. Something tells me that's not how that's supposed to look. In this notebook, in here, Act 3 is literally 10 pages long. That's like not even 1,000 words. Maybe. It might be 1,000 words for all of Act 3. That was my main thing. I'm really gonna have to restructure that to not have Act 2 be ginormous and terrifying. That's like the last step in the reworking process, but it's also a big issue. Anyways, number 2, as you guys probably know, in this project I added 2 new main characters, kind of 2 new perspectives in the book, who are kind of like secondary characters to the ones we already know. That's how books work. I realized as I read the entire thing that I didn't put them in the book enough. I thought I was doing too much, that like it was gonna overwhelm the story by having these 2 new characters and like just like oversaturate it. And I realized that I need to put them more into the book because they provide a lot of good context for everything. So that was a nice surprise. I love writing those 2 characters. Knowing that I get to write more of them in the future, 10 out of 10 experience. I cannot wait. Also, I think I talked about this in a previous Project Moss vlog, but while I was writing the book, the zero draft, I realized that I wanted to change the main character of this book's motivation slightly. He goes through the same steps, but the reason why he's going through these steps in the book has changed. I think I've shown this in that other vlog too, but I literally wrote it out while I was still at the beginning of Act 2, I'm pretty sure. Completely changing why he's doing what he's doing, and the arc he kind of goes through where he realizes that he's doing what he's doing for the wrong reasons, and he's trying to save unnecessary people. People that don't deserve to be saved. Let's see, what else do we have? This is unscripted. Usually I script stuff like this so I can like filter through all my notes. I'm just looking at my notes right now. Probably a bad idea. Probably a bad idea, but we're just gonna keep going. Let's see. Oh, the enemy. The enemy. They're not like in the story. They're in the story. They're there. They're just not very prominent. They're supposed to be these people that just like silently influence the island that they live on. Well, that's what they've been doing, and now they're a little more vocal about how they're influencing the island, and they need to be there. They need to be there, and we need to see them making changes to this island for worse, typically, and we don't really see that as much as we should. It should just be like a sort of background noise when it's not being mentioned, and it should be affecting the characters and the people around them, and it just doesn't right now. So really gotta ground us in the world a little bit more, and the stakes that have sort of been set up by the enemy influencing the island a little bit more than they have in the past. Which, oh my god, that is a whole other thing. I don't even know what point we're on. 5? 4? 6? I don't know. My main character from the first book, Project What, she's still in the book, but she is still investigating this enemy group. She's trying to like find a way, she's trying to find a way like a weak point for them. Still trying to take them down, still trying to get them off the island, away from the island, out of her life, as one should in a book. She ends up discovering something about this enemy group at the end of the book that's like the cliffhanger hard cutoff, and I want to keep it. I want to keep that discovery she makes, but it's so insanely on the nose the way I wrote it in the zero draft. In hindsight, I know I just wanted to get the information out so I could finish writing the book, which is fine. It was a zero draft. That's what it's there for. But thinking about it, thinking about the enemy group, this world, and like how secretive and how cautious people have to be, that is just simply not how this information would be relayed, that she finds out. Like, you have to, in the first book, I think I do it well, where you have to really dig. You have to really dig for the answers you want. And that scene, she did not have to dig. It was right there on the page in front of her. And I was like, okay, that needs to be fixed. Just like her arc from at the beginning being like, why are they not fixing and repairing the island that they wanted so badly, to essentially realizing that because they're not helping, and because they had such a huge influence on the island for like a century, that because they're not helping, because they're pulling away, for some reason, the island is like doomed. They have no other people and resources except for this enemy group, and if they abandon the island, there's nothing they can do. That's her arc. That's her thing in the whole book, while also trying to take down the group. But she doesn't get to this point until after she has tried the entire book to bring down the enemy group's sort of morale. She's just trying to show them that, like, oh, we're on to you, like, you can't hide anymore, like, we know your secrets, like, very much just trying to, like, get into their heads. And then she realizes, oh my god, this group is actually leaving us behind, like, we're actually gonna die, like, this is it. I really like that dynamic I set up, I'm not gonna lie. That, like, this enemy group is terrible, they're scary, they'll do whatever they want to get what they want, but also they're the only reason that this island is still alive and not sinking to the to the bottom of the ocean. I don't know. I really like that dynamic. It's really fun. It's like you want them gone, but when they're gone, everything's gone. So it's like, do you keep putting up with it? Do you keep putting up with this kind of stuff in order to keep at least someone alive? I don't know. It's fun. I'll get to that later. Anyways, that's her arc. And then my third main character, I also need to revise her sort of plot line, her arc, and also the world building and lore that she learns, because her book is book 3. She dominates book 3, and her arc really has to build up into that part. Mostly, what she's doing is learning about this space station, space program that people were working on before the war started, that put everyone on this island. Yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This lore has been in my head for 3 years, 4 years. This is my life. This is my life now. But she learns about this space thing and is trying to figure out what happened to it. Did it ever get off the ground? Did it ever actually get completed? Are there people living on it now? Like, what happened? Because this is like a beacon of hope for her. Like, we can get off the planet that is like just destroyed with radiation, and we can, I don't know, see the stars, meet aliens. I don't know. She's a sci-fi girly, okay? She is a little nerd, modeled after me. Don't worry about it. But that's her whole thing. That's her whole thing in this book. Just trying to figure out what happened to this thing. One, I don't like how she learns about this spaceship thing. I don't know what to call it. Space City? it's a space city, eventually. I don't like how she learns about this space city. It's just boring. And two, I need to fix the actual lore on the spaceship because it is all over the place. I thought I had it figured out. I have the politics around it figured out, I think. I just don't have the actual progress steps mapped out for it. Like, oh, this is how far it got while it was being constructed on Earth. This is how far it got when it was being constructed in orbit. This is how far it got with funding, or like this is how many people ended up being on it. Like I don't have any of that, and she ends up learning that in the book, and I kind of just made it up while I was writing, which was a terrible idea because it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And yeah, I'm just gonna have to fix that. I'm gonna have to make a timeline for her and actually figure out how this space program played out. So okay, essentially those were the things that were wrong. Those are the things that are wrong. Those are the main things. There's little things in there that are wrong. Of course, there's a couple plot holes. There's one that I thought was really funny. The main character, he grabs a vase from the lobby of the school that they were in before it was destroyed, and he ends up breaking that vase. He ends up breaking the vase in an escape. And then like 2 chapters later, he ends up using the vase to put flowers in, and I was like, girl, you wrote this like maybe a day and a half apart. How did you forget that the vase was broken? I digress. There wasn't any major plot points though, I don't think. So, that's good. Just the vase. Anyways, that was the bad. The good is that some of the prose in this, not bad. For a 0 draft, incredible. Insane. The other 2 characters that I added to this book as well, so fun to write. They're both very humorous and like cynical, but in different ways. One character is very like judgy and kind of like mean, and just like hates on everything, and I love him for that. And the other one is more self-deprecating, I think, which love him for that too. Like I actually laughed out loud reading it, which is probably like so insane. And like probably like why you're weird, why are you doing that? I did have fun reading it. There's a lot of LMAOs in this draft that I wrote at the end of lines. So many LMAOs in varying ranges of intensity. I was having fun writing this book, okay? They may be killing people and almost sinking their home, but it's a funny book, okay? It's silly. Anyways, okay, so there's that. There's that. And then this is gonna sound so pretentious and so like annoying. I'm aware of that from the beginning, okay? Please don't come at me. But as I was reading this book, I kept forgetting, this could sound so bad. I kept forgetting that this was my world. Like I had come up with every aspect of the world I was writing, which I thought was so crazy, which I thought was insane. I think it was just the way that I was able to just drop a bunch of different names that I had come up with for like programs and groups and like systems in this world in one scene, that I was like, oh my god, this is a full world, this is a full experience. People, like, this is someone's fictional life. Like, that's so scary. That's so weird. And I kept reading it and I was like, oh my god, this is not just someone else's book that I'm like learning this information for, that I'm like a part of this world with. I'm writing this book and I'm a part of this. Like, that, I don't know how to like convey that feeling. The world has taken on a character of its own, a mind of its own. It's a thing in itself. I think I'm at the point where I don't have to do a ton of more world building. obviously I have to figure out the lore for the space city, but I don't have to do a bunch more like overhaul world building because the foundation is there and it's been fleshed out enough over time. It's just like there's so much stuff in it that I'm like, I can't believe I was able to come up with that and use it in a book, and now it's just like there. And now it's just there, and now I can keep using it. So it's so fun. I love writing. I'm trying to find a way to describe it without sounding like a huge jerk and being like, yeah, my world is pretty great. Like, I'm a perfect writer. But like, it's just a fun world to be in. It's just not a fun world, I guess you could die at many points. But the enemy group that I set up and their history with the war and the island and how they're like taking action now with my characters and the just I don't know how to describe it. But that was one of my favorite things about reading this book, was like, oh my god, this is all my original thoughts and content. I know I'm discovering what like writing a book is for the first time right now, but would recommend do world building. Do world building. Write your stories. Let's see, what else? Oh, I had another issue. The main plot and like problem throughout the book was supposed to be that the island is sinking. It's an artificial island that they built to house people to get them away from the worst of fallout after the war. And it is floating on a bunch of engines that sort of just keep pushing it up. Probably not the smartest idea on the builders. I'm gonna blame it on them and not me to do that, because what happens in book one sort of shakes the engine's parts and how they operate out of place, and a lot of them start failing. And that's the problem in book two. The island's shutting down, and they'll start sinking into the Pacific Ocean, and that's not good. The problem that was supposed to be solved was, how do we fix the engines? How do we fix the engines that are keeping us afloat so we don't drown and die? And I kind of glossed over it in the book. I glossed over it entirely in the draft. After they learn where these engines are and get an idea of how to fix them, the main characters sort of just toss it to the side, as in give it to the group that they're working with to do while they do whatever else they want. And I was like, okay, this was supposed to be the main conflict in the book, and they're supposed to be working at this the entire time, and like at the end it's like, oh my god, we finally figured it out, like we're safe, like we got this. And then like they're like, we're not even halfway through the book and they're like, yeah, we're good, we're working on it, we're safe, like it'll be good. That's, first of all, boring. Second of all, did we completely forget about what this book was about? So that was another major thing I had to fix. Oops, forgot to put that at the beginning. Sorry. What else do we have? What else do we have? Oh, I talked about this. Well, why am I so bright? I talked about this at the end of the finishing Project Moss vlog, I'm pretty sure. There was this whole plot line I cut out of the book because I just didn't set it up properly. So I just left it out at the end, but it has a significant impact on the story at the end. That I would like to re-include in the book, but that would just take having this group of people on an island separate from them be mentioned more throughout the story, so that they stay in the back of the characters' heads and the reader's head, so that when they do come up at the end of the book, it's like, oh snap, like they're here. And I completely did not set that up at all. They're in the first chapter of the book, and that's it. Yeah, but they don't get mentioned throughout the rest of the story, so cut that out, and need to put them back in the story. And I feel like that would just reinforce the world and the consequences of what happened in book one, if we see these people mentioned throughout the book. And it'll just kind of show that what happened in book one didn't just go away at the end, except for the stuff that's important. Like, everything's still happening. But that is kind of it, I feel. It wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. I thought there were going to be like a ton of plot holes, there were going to be like a ton of things that I need to reinforce, that I needed to like replot maybe, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I'm definitely gonna have to re-outline. I'm gonna have to emphasize some things more just to really drive the story home, but I think it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Definitely workable. Definitely going to be able to rewrite maybe soon, probably not, but this year. Write it this year. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out. I am so sorry that this video went all over the place. I did not script it, like I said, and I just kind of yapped. Just kind of yapped for like 30 minutes. I don't know how long this video is going to end up being, but the raw footage is well over 30 minutes. So sorry editing me, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know how your writing projects are going. How's life going? Anything, everything. I'd love to know. But let me know down in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.